Lebanese President Joseph Aoun praises Egypt's pivotal regional role and support for Lebanon. President Trump says he has warm ties with Egypt's President Sisi and signals interest in hosting him. And Egypt's foreign minister highlights strong growth in Egypt-Russia relations.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
The news in detail. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has received his Egyptian counterpart Mustafa Madbouli at the Grand Sarai in Beirut, where they held expanded talks with senior delegations to deepen strategic partnership and coordinate positions on regional issues. Following full official reception ceremonies, the two counterparts held a closed meeting. Then broader discussions focused on technical cooperation, particularly in energy and infrastructure. Madbouli's two-day visit, leading a high-level ministerial delegation, carries strong political and economic signals, underscoring the depth and resilience of Cairo-Beirut relations. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has stressed Lebanon's reliance on Egypt's pivotal political role in the Arab region and its support during this challenging period. Speaking at Ba'abda Palace during a meeting with Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and his delegation, Aoun highlighted the importance of activating the Lebanese-Egyptian High Joint Committee to advance cooperation in energy, electricity, industry, transport, and reconstruction of southern Lebanon. Madbouli reaffirmed Egypt's full backing of Lebanon's leadership, government, and army, condemning Israeli aggression and emphasizing support for restoring stability, sovereignty, and full institutional control across Lebanese territory in line with UN Resolution 1701. The Lebanese president added that his country appreciates the commitment of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Lebanon's security, stability, and progress. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has said he held in-depth talks with Egyptian counterpart Mustafa Madbouli on strengthening political and economic cooperation. Speaking at a joint press conference in Beirut, Salam stressed that relations between Egypt and Lebanon are marked by shared paths and converging visions, reaffirming the commitment to deepen bilateral ties across all fields. The Lebanese Prime Minister also praised Egypt's support for Lebanon, particularly its efforts to halt Israeli attacks and bring an end to the Israeli occupation. Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has said relations between Cairo and Beirut are founded on mutual respect and close cooperation, noting growing political engagement between the two sides. At a joint press conference in Beirut, he stressed Egypt's commitment to strengthening bilateral ties across all sectors, backed by clear political will. Madbouli praised Lebanese leadership's efforts to restore stability, reaffirmed support for Lebanon's state authority and civil peace, highlighted Lebanon's role in regional stability, and urged Israel to respect the ceasefire agreement. In his address to the Lebanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli has acknowledged the significant challenges facing Lebanon. Madbouli highlighted Egypt's extensive expertise in infrastructure development and its pivotal regional role, noting that Egyptian companies are fully prepared to contribute to Lebanon's growth. The Egyptian Prime Minister emphasized cooperation in renewable energy and the reconstruction of southern Lebanon, particularly in infrastructure, water, electricity, roads, and communication, reaffirming Egypt's steadfast support for Lebanon's leadership, government, and people in their recovery projects. Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri has received Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Marbouli and his high-level delegation at the second presidential palace in Ain Atina. Berri praised Egypt's consistent support for Lebanon across various stages, highlighting Cairo's effort in promoting security and stability in southern Lebanon. He reaffirmed Lebanon's commitment to the ceasefire agreement and called on Israel to fully implement its provisions, stressing the importance of continued cooperation to maintain peace and safeguard the region. The meeting was attended by the Egyptian ambassador to Lebanon and senior Lebanese officials. Discussions focused on current developments in Lebanon and the broader region, as well as strengthening bilateral relations between Lebanon and Egypt. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has said the government is examining the most appropriate legal frameworks to reach an agreement with Syria on detainees, stressing the need for a lawful and organized approach. Meanwhile, Lebanon's Deputy Prime Minister affirmed a strong political will to establish the best possible relations with Syria, underlining Beirut's interest in constructive engagement and cooperation based on mutual respect and shared interests. During an official visit to France, Lebanese Army Commander General Rodolphe Heikel has met French Chief of Defense General Fabien Mandon to discuss strengthening military cooperation, particularly in capacity building and joint training. General Mandon stressed continued support for the Lebanese Army to safeguard Lebanon's security, sovereignty, and stability. General Heikel, on his side, expressed appreciation for France's ongoing initiatives backing Lebanon and its army amid exceptional circumstances, highlighting the military's efforts to ensure stability and implement the first phase of its plan south of the Litani on schedule. The U.S. Embassy in Beirut has reported that Lebanon's Technical Military Committee, known as the Mechanism, held its 15th meeting in Al-Naqoura to coordinate efforts supporting stability and a lasting ceasefire. Military participants updated operational developments and emphasized enhancing Lebanese army capabilities in South Litani. Civilian participants focused on safe population returns, reconstruction, and economic priorities. Both sides stressed that sustainable political and economic progress is essential to consolidate security gains. Preparations are underway for the next scheduled meeting in 2026. And for more analysis, we now move to Mark Summers in our newsroom. To you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mona. Yes, we're now joined from Beirut by the Military Affairs and International Relations expert, General Bahet Halal. Thank you very much for being here with us. So what are the outcomes? What outcomes came from the 15th meeting in Naqoura, and what are the next steps before the 2026 sessions begin?
Good evening to you and to the viewers. In fact, the 15th meeting for the Mechanism Committee was held today in Naqoura, and it witnessed the civil participation and the official representation of the Lebanese Israeli sides. In addition to the committee included U.S. and UN officials and representatives. The work will continue to observe the ceasefire agreement between Lebanon and Israel according to the November Agreement 2024, and the security progress was stressed to be a top priority, and therefore the political progress was discussed as a priority as well, linked to the security and prevailing stability once again, as it cannot be separated from the political path, and the Israeli side insisted that this cannot be isolated from the economic and political paths. Also, they stressed on the reinforcing the capabilities of the Lebanese army to be the only guarantor for security on the borders with the occupied Palestine. They also focused on rehabilitating the situation to bring back the population of the displaced population and tackling the economic priorities, which was highlighted also by the Israeli delegation. A second round of negotiations between Israel and Lebanon regarding the observation, which is the 15th meeting in general, is an unprecedented development for decades in this issue. The meeting, we have seen the escalations waged by the Israeli side after the security agreement, and these aggressions before the meetings that took place for the mechanism to impose a field de facto and to have a confusing scenario, turning it into a political negotiation window. So the meeting opened its horizons for what's beyond the military, for a political negotiation between Israel and Lebanon through the mechanism, and including more issues such as the economy and prevailing stability and security on the long term. And this would be more interactive for Lebanon and Israel both. Just observation of the ceasefire will lead to expanding the political consultations. Lebanon, through its delegation headed by His Excellency Ambassador Karam, that they will not see any political normalization for peace, and the top priority of the negotiation must remain stopping the Israeli breaches and complete withdrawal of Israeli forces and releasing the detainees. If the committee fails, if we're talking about what is the future, if the committee fails to stop the breaches, the violations, and Israel continues its pressures militarily, and things might deteriorate once again, and it will be once again an open conflict on the borders. Provocations from the Israeli side will lead to further security escalations, which will eventually end up with a full-out war. I think this can be ruled out as we see more negotiations and meetings. As stated by Michel Isa, the field is one thing, and the negotiation rooms behind closed doors are something different entirely. So the meetings are directly related to the Lebanese sovereignty. If the state keeps building the capacities of the Lebanese army, increasing its role to carry out the agreement known as the re-centralizing the state in southern Lebanon. Also, the several representatives attending the meetings, opening the economy issue, the reconstruction issue, all highlighting that all parties are seeking to end the comprehensive conflict in a comprehensive manner. And I think that practically the mechanism meeting today can be progress in the process and the political path to stop the aggressions and encourage the commitment to what has been stated in 2024, and it is completely linked to the field de facto that is being changed every day by Israel. There is an opportunity, there is a chance for further progress if the US pressures the Israel, and if Israel does not insist on the economic and political aspects as they are directly linked to carrying out the security commitment on the ground. So the future is directly tied to the internal capacities to have some kind of balance between the de-escalation and reinforcing the Lebanese army, and giving the political path the priority in the region.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. You mentioned new capabilities, though. What are these new capabilities that the Lebanese army might have south of Litani?
What are the capacities that must be obtained by the Lebanese army to carry out the mission south of the Litani?
Yes, indeed, that was the question that I was just asking. What are the new capabilities for the Lebanese army south of the Litani? Yes. Training, equipment, logistics.
These new capacities that must be given to the Lebanese army are the basics, the logistics, the financials, and even the on the operational level. We as the Lebanese army, we need basically international support, and this international support can be focused on solid political basis as opposed to the Israeli army, and this makes directly linked to the aid provided and offered by the US to the Lebanese army. These aids are essential for the Lebanese army in order to sustain its capabilities. There are military capacities highly needed by the Lebanese army. They need certain types of radars and anti-aircraft weapons, anti-shields, and some warning systems. All of these are very needed for the Lebanese army in order to reach a certain point to be a modern army able to keep up with what is happening in the region, and especially in on its own borders, whether from the south or the east and north.
Okay, so let me interrupt you there. When it comes to reconstruction, what reconstruction do you think will be in line to receive funding first? Are we talking power or water or roads?
Talking about equipment for the Lebanese army to deploy south of the Litani River, and the ability to have joint patrols and to improve the logistics after the US and French support, heavy equipment and leadership points to keep up with, and also the redeployment of the intelligence force as we require training sessions to be given to the officials of the Lebanese army. We're talking about heavy weapons and the lack of a air defense system, and therefore the Lebanese army will be able to carry out its role.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, General Halal, military affairs and international relations expert. Thank you very much indeed for joining us from Beirut. And now we go back to the studio.
All right, thank you so much for the analysis. And now for the latest developments in Gaza. U.S. President Donald Trump says he has warm relations with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and would be interested in hosting him, as he also signals possible talks with Israel's Prime Minister and renewed focus on Ukraine. Trump described President al-Sisi as a friend and said he would like to host him. Turning to Ukraine, Trump voiced optimism about progress toward ending the war, urging Ukrainian authorities to move quickly and arguing there may be a near-term opportunity to resolve the conflict. Moreover, U.S. President Donald Trump said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is likely to visit him in Florida during the Christmas holidays as Washington pushes for progress on the next phase of Gaza peace talks. Trump said the visit is expected during his holiday stay in Florida as his administration tries to move negotiations forward on the next stage of a Gaza deal. The push comes as diplomatic contacts continue with regional mediators involved in the talks. Any new phase would aim to build on the current arrangements with the goal of extending calm and addressing unresolved political and security issues. The White House has been pressing for momentum while the situation on the ground in Gaza remains a central focus for negotiators. Palestinian officials say Israeli fire and separate explosions from unexploded shells have killed at least 2 people in Gaza, including children, raising new warnings about civilian safety in residential areas. Palestinian official media reported that Israeli troops opened fire in multiple locations across the Gaza Strip, killing a child and wounding 3 others. Gaza's civil defense also reported 3 separate explosions from ordnance left behind, saying those blasts killed another child and injured several people. 1 explosion was reported inside the Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza. Civil defense teams said such incidents have become frequent in residential areas, increasing the risk to civilians, and urged faster international cooperation to clear unexploded ordnance. In Gaza City, children at the Church of the Holy Family are decorating a Christmas tree and rehearsing Shwar songs as celebrations approach under the shadow of war and widespread destruction. Inside the church, families are trying to keep traditions alive, with children hanging ornaments and practicing hymns ahead of Christmas. Church officials say this season feels deeply different this year, with many homes, community spaces and familiar gathering places destroyed or unsafe. They described a shrinking community and a quieter celebration marked by loss and displacement. Even so, the preparations offer a rare moment of routine and comfort as worshippers look for signs of hope while the wider humanitarian crisis continues. In Gaza, Palestinians are lining up in Khan Yunis to receive hot meals from charity kitchens, and the United Nations warns current aid deliveries are still falling short of urgent needs. Charity kitchens in Qnews have been distributing cooked meals to families facing severe shortages. A ceasefire that took effect in October has eased some restrictions on goods and aid, but the United Nations said the volume entering Gaza remains insufficient, with needs still overwhelming. Aid groups say many households rely on communal kitchens as food supplies, cooking fuel, and basic essentials remain scarce. The UN continues to call for a sustained increase in aid flow and faster distribution to reach vulnerable communities. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdel and his French counterpart Jean-Noël Barrot have exchanged views on regional developments. During a phone call, they discussed Gaza, praising France's historic recognition of Palestine and stressing full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2803, humanitarian access and early reconstruction. On Sudan, they reviewed Egypt's efforts for a ceasefire, political dialogue and safeguarding sovereignty. Abdulati highlighting Egypt's support for Lebanon's territorial integrity and institutional stability. They also discussed Libya, emphasizing a Libyan-owned political solution, synchronized elections, and the withdrawal of all foreign forces to ensure national security and regional stability. Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdel has emphasized the significant development of Cairo-Moscow relations across all levels. During a joint press conference with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, he highlighted deep strategic cooperation between the two countries, including boosting trade, supporting regional security, stability, and development. Abdel-Hadi stressed Egypt's rejection of any interventions threatening regional stability and underlined the importance of serious coordination with partners. He called for full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2803 regarding Gaza, the operation of the Rafah border crossing in both directions, and Egypt's ongoing efforts to sustain the ceasefire in Gaza and facilitate humanitarian aid. Sudan developments were also discussed. On his part, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has praised Egypt's hosting of the Russian-African Partnership Conference and highlighted growing alignment with Cairo on numerous international issues. Speaking in Cairo, Lavrov noted a recent 12% increase in Egypt-Russia trade, significant cooperation on infrastructure projects, energy facilities, and the industrial zone in the Suez Canal economic area. The Russian Foreign Minister emphasized enhanced political coordination between the two countries at regional forums and underscored the importance of sustaining the Gaza ceasefire, pursuing a two-state solution, and stabilizing the West Bank. He also acknowledged Egypt's diplomatic mediation with Iran, its balanced stance on Ukraine, and warned that Western security demands could militarize Ukraine against Russia. Abu Dhabi has opened the second edition of the Games of the Future, a digital tournament mixing traditional sports with competitive gaming, drawing thousands of athletes from across the world. Organizers say around 2,000 athletes from more than 100 countries are taking part, competing across events that combine physical performance and digital gameplay. The program features classic sports formats alongside modern e-sports style contests designed to test both athletic skill and gaming strategy. Suhail bin Bouti Al Maktoum, chair of the United Arab Emirates Committee for Talent and Sports Support, said prize money across the tournament is valued at up to $5 million. The event is positioned as a global showcase for emerging hybrid competitions and new audience focused for maids. Well, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin, but before we wrap up, here is a recap of the top stories making headlines this hour. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun praises Egypt's pivotal regional role in support for Lebanon. President Trump says he has warm ties with Egypt's President Sisi and signals interests in hosting him. And Egypt's foreign minister highlights strong growth in Egypt-Russia relations. For more stories and live updates, follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EGY. From all of us here, many thanks for watching and good night.